you. Good.
Which
Tyra. Yeah. Jessica. Yeah, Jessica. Good seeing you again. I saw. Woohoo! Did anyone else bring their binders? Any binders in the house? Do you all use your binders? Did we decide on who was going on?
I can do you can do the SharePoint forms, you do the checklist.
Okay.
And I can do the form, the added fields.
Okay.
You'll do the welcome.
hello.
Jenny come back? We'll wait for a few more minutes. It's kind of empty in here. Okay, great. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, we're going to get started. So we want to thank you all for coming out to our 6th training on interagency agreements. We have new faces in the building. We have new super users since our last training. So we welcome our new super users. I am Tyra Jeffries. I've communicated with many of you all, and this is Renita Moody. We're now under a new division. We're under the MAC-G group, which is our group director is Juanita Wilson, and our division director is Jaime Galvez. They aren't attending today, but we just want to let you know that our new management is Juanita and Jaime. And today's training is pretty much just to get some guidance from you all on what you need training on. We have training available on the 7600 forms and the addendum that we went over in the prior trainings from 1 through 5. But we want to get a better understanding on how we can help you all better with the process. So this is pretty much a question and answer session so that we can get advice from you all on how to help you better. We did also provide an IAA checklist. We had one before. It was about 5 pages. We narrowed it down to 1. We also have frequently asked questions, Q&As from questions that we're asked often from our IAA community. And we have on our IAA SharePoint page, the way the forms are set up currently, we've been asked to provide other options. So we'll be sending out a survey to you all to look at the options. You'll see them in the packet, but to look at the options to see what is a better fit for you all to to put the forms on SharePoint. So we have the current way that they're on SharePoint, and we have 2 other options to see which works best for the IAA community. And lastly is questions and answers from you all. Okay? So we were told that Jenny was the only one that had her black book, her binder. So Jenny, we thank you. For those who don't know about the binder, that we provided binders to our super users, and they're supposed to keep them with all the information in them and bring them to the trainings to collect their additional paperwork to go in them. So I know there are some new ones, and we'll have to provide the black binder to you all. But we get excited when we have those who are excited to bring the black binder with them. So we thank you, Janny, for that. So the meeting agenda again today is to talk about who do I contact, what do I need, where do I go, and how do I get started. And it's pretty much to make sure that the IAA community is fully trained and have all the information that they need. You all are always welcome to come to Vernita and I and Jaime. We'll always be there to address any of your concerns, but we also want to make things ready and available to you. So we're adding a resource section on the IAA SharePoint. It's under the IAA process tab on the IAA dashboard, where we have the forms and the process. We're adding a resource section to that. And under that, we'll add the IAA checklist and the frequently asked questions and anything else that would be resourceful for you all. Okay? So as we talked about the new proposal to set the forms up, currently we have the forms as is, as having the document type forms, the 7600A-B, the DOB form, the Section 28 addendum, and DNF. We were asked to have it broken out as having a section for assisted acquisitions and a section for non-assisted acquisitions. So currently this is the way the forms are set up in SharePoint under the IAA process tab. And this is the proposed method option 1, to have a document type forms for servicing agency, forms for requesting agency, and forms for deobligation, and just have the same form for each section, but it's specifically for those types of agreements. That's option 1, and then option 2 is to have it broken down by servicing agency, assisted, servicing agency, non-assisted, requesting agency assisted, requesting agency non-assisted, and then deobligations. So we want to get your input on if you all feel that the as-is currently work for you all, or if it will be better for someone new starting out to have the option 1 or option 2. So we'll be sending out later on today or tomorrow morning a survey for you all to provide your input. We didn't want to just change it. Huh?
I was just saying, please respond to the survey.
We didn't just want to change it without getting your input.
Okay, I'm going to go over the checklist. This is the checklist. It's in high demand, so we will roll it out as of today. So if you have any questions, this is the time to ask. But the checklist consists of 4 to 5 different sections. Anybody who picks up this checklist should be able to pick it up and see exactly what's needed for your IAs. So we're making it for new people, new super users, new cores, anybody that can pick up this document and know exactly what they need to do to get IA started. So the very first section is the IA required documents. And as you all know, the main 3 documents that we need for IAs are the 7600A, the 7600B, and the addendum. Those are the 3 main documents that you will always, most cases, 95% of the time, you will need those 3 documents. So if anybody ever asks you, what documents do I need to start my IA, those are the 3 main ones. Now the next ones are the required documents when applicable. When applicable, you might need determinations and findings for assisted acquisitions over 500,000. The best procurement approach is also part of the determination of findings, and it's all in one document. But it's just here to remind you that that is part of the determinations and findings document. Also, you would need an OGC opinion when you have another program authority other than the Economy Act. So that's just a reminder that you need that OGC opinion, and it's more of like a clearance for your program authority, as well as any SSA forms or PSC forms or DOD forms. It's just reminding you that other agencies have other agency-specific forms that must accompany these required documents for your IA. The next section are the email verification and documents that are also required when you send your IA package forward in SharePoint. We always look for the Privacy Act review, and that's from Walter Stone. We also look for the information security clearance from Clarence Mayfield. The program authority is from your funding official, which is, we need the email. We always look for the email and the core certificate. So on average, you'll need 7 documents uploaded into SharePoint when you send it to OAGM review. Your 3 required documents and these 4 email verifications. The additional documents related to the Privacy Office are also on here to help anybody know that if you have a DUA or a CMA or IEA or ISA or BAA or whatever the initials are, it's just here to remind you, the checklist. It's here to remind you of different forms that you need. And also, 16 and 17 is just, if you have any grants involved with your IAs, it's reminding you that you have to reach out to Mary Beth Green in OAGM to get a clearance from her, as well as any travel that's involved in your IA. You need to get that clearance before it comes to us as well. We have the email here where you can just email them and get your clearance before it comes to us. And the last part of it is just reminding you to make sure you have the correct signatories on there, make sure you have concurrence from other partnering agencies, and where to go get started, which is to start with the workflow SharePoint process. So this we're going to send, it's going to be on the SharePoint site as well. We're going to post it on the SharePoint site. I can send it out to you as well. But you will have, and we'll also want your feedback in order to make sure that the checklist is being positive and useful for you. So we would like feedback on that as well.
Before we move forward, anyone have any questions? If you have questions, if you could step up to the mic. Does anyone on the phone have questions? Is there anyone on the phone?
They said they were.
If you're on mute, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello, this is Pat Willis. Can you hear me?
Hi, Pat. How are you?
Fine. I have a question regarding the checklist. Will there be a spot for when you get the IA number?
You want to add the IA number to the checklist?
Yes, that process.
No, there isn't a box added for you to add the IA number. The IA number is in the SharePoint system. So that's when you start. This checklist is something that you should be doing prior to preparing your IA documents.
Okay.
It's just a good starting point so that you'll know what's needed
Well, I've had several questions from my leadership about when do you get the IA number, so I didn't know if you wanted to add that somewhere. I don't know where.
So when you request the IA number is requested through SharePoint. That's the first step of starting the IA process in the SharePoint system. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, but the IAs that I did, I don't think I did them in the system because I had a problem and I couldn't find it. So I don't know, it may be challenging for me this year, but I'll figure it out. But I just figured it should be somewhere in that checklist that you need to have an IA number.
Well, this is your guide, so you can always write the IA number on here for yourself, but no one else will see the checklist besides you and whomever you're working with.
So what I was saying, wouldn't you want to put on there that that is one of the steps that you must do as well as you have to get an IA number? I don't know, maybe it's just me because I was new coming in and I didn't know what the process was when I started. So if you have this checklist, that would have been helpful for me.
Okay, well, we're taking all feedback, so we'll consider your request.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any other concerns as far as getting started, you can always reach out to Vernita and we can assist you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else on the line?
Yes, Tyra. Hi.
Hi.
This is Roland Herrera.
Hi, Roland. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
For
I
everyone
have just
for everyone
a
that's
couple of...
For everyone that's on the line, if you could send Vernita and I an email letting us know that you are on the call so we can give you credit.
Yeah.
Okay, Roland, what was your concern?
My question is, the guidance you guys have given us is to, once we post documents to the SharePoint and we need to make updates or corrections, you say we need to work off of the documents that are already in SharePoint. So am I to understand, because it doesn't look like I was able to edit what was in SharePoint unless I took it out, worked on it, and then added it back in. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's correct. You can upload using, if you're using the same naming convention, we have a naming convention document. So that when you upload your documents, you should use that naming convention so that everyone is on one accord with how to how to name the documents. Once you make changes to the documents, you'll save it to your drive, and you can either re-upload it or drag and drop it using that same naming convention.
Okay, and it'll just replace it'll replace the existing document.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to do.
Got it. Understood. Okay. My other question is the naming convention. So I inadvertently uploaded 2 documents without correcting the name, but it didn't look like I was able to edit or delete those incorrectly named documents. So how does that get resolved? Do you guys delete them if I were to upload them with the correct naming convention?
Yes, you are correct. No one has deleting capability besides Vernita and I, OAGM, and the SharePoint staff. So you will have to send us an email if you want to have a document deleted. We'll delete it as soon as we get the email and read it, and you can rename it and re-upload with the correct naming convention.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That makes sense.
You're welcome.
Any more questions about the checklist?
Hi, Vernita and Tyra. This is Shaquila.
Hello.
Hi. Could we add to the checklist the SharePoint link?
Sure.
Just because it's easier if you gave it to somebody that they could just click on it and those documents are there.
Okay.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Send me a follow-up email too on that. I appreciate their feedback, but yes, if you can send it in the email as well.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, this is Jessica Beffer from CSIO. One thing that we learned about in this last round of IAs was about the
Can you speak a little?
The
into
programmatic authority.
Yes.
It seems like it changes periodically. So if you're signing your IA at one time of year versus re-signing at a different time of year, there could be different authorities.
Yes.
Is that all at the discretion of the program and your individual OFM funding contact, or is it the same funding authority for every IA? And is there a resource that we can access? Because I think that we didn't know that it changed. It could change mid-year, and so we were surprised, and we don't want it to delay anything in the future.
Right. So your funding authority, program authority can change for each IAA, and it can change within. So say that you're doing an IAA now, and then you want to incrementally fund it later on within this fiscal year. The programmatic authority can change again. The programmatic authority is based off of the funding that you are using to obligate on the IAA. So each funding has its own program authority, and that comes from OFM. Your funding official is the one who should know what that program authority is for the funding that's being obligated on the IAA.
There's no way we would know of a change except for them telling us at the time that we're trying to sign or add funds or re-sign.
Yeah, so
Okay.
for each IAA, you should always reach out to your funding official to find out what the program authority is for this specific action. Right now, we're under continuing resolution, so the program authorities has changed based off of the CR 3 times this year. And April 28th, some of the authorities that we currently have is going to change, could possibly change again. So if IAs aren't signed that have that authority on there, they have to be amended to have the correct authority updated. Thank you. Ms. Kiana?
Yes.
Guys, get to know the faces of your super users. You all can network.
So I think this checklist is really helpful, but what we found this year is that we have a lot of cores who are new to the IA process, and although we kind of outlined what forms were needed and what clearances were required, they didn't know which questions or were uncertain of which questions to ask the partnering agency in order to develop their scope of work or populate the funding pieces of their agreement. And I was wondering, is there another checklist being developed or could possibly be developed to assist cores who are new in that way with the process?
We hadn't considered that. We would definitely will take that into consideration. But one thing I do recommend is look at the form. On the form is sections 1 through 40 on the 7600A through B. And each section of the form is what you should be working with your federal partners on filling out. Is this applicable to our agreement? Does this, what is our need? And based off our need, what sections do we need to fill out? Pretty much is every section except for section 29 that gets filled out. Section 29 is never filled out by CMS. That's where you provide advance funds. So we don't provide or accept advance funds, so that's always a blank section for us. But pretty much every other section, 1 through 40, is completed. So they should be working with their federal partner on each section to get information for both agencies in those sections based on it being an assisted acquisition, a non-assisted acquisition, de-obligation, amendment. But we can talk later to find out exactly what will work for you all. And we want your input so that we can better address helping you all to meet your needs, especially when you're meeting with your cores and new cores, so that it'll be easier for you all. Okay? You're welcome.
Moving forward, we just wanted to, we sent out, I think it was earlier this month, about 2 fields we added to SharePoint, which was the due date to OAGM and also OAGM comments. Now, the due date was added. Why? Because we want to make sure that we're capturing all the due dates. We want your IAs at least at a minimum 60 days prior to the due date that is due. So if you have a IA that's due June the 1st, April the 1st is what you will put in that field. And we're really checking those fields. We're following up and we're making sure our boss, Jaime, is reaching out to the super users or the core's bosses to make sure that we get these IAs timely, because we want to make sure that we're having enough time to adequately and efficiently process these IAs. especially not before, we don't want to get them the week before they're due and then have to rush through and get them done. So we want to make sure that it's adequate time for you as well as us to be able to process these IAs. So that's one of the main reasons why we added the due date. And the OAGM comments are some information that we put in these fields to help you during the monthly report to follow up on if we have questions or we need to follow up on things. And just like we had in the monthly report before SharePoint.
Also related to us processing IAs timely, we currently have about 20 urgent IAs. Mm-hmm. So in order for us to be able to properly give each component good customer service and to get your agreements processed timely, we really need to stick to the due dates. And if you do have something that was kind of missed or that came upon you all that you didn't know was going to happen, just reach out to us so that we can kind of put a timeline in place so that all of us aren't running around like chickens without head cut off trying to get the stuff processed timely to the other agency, and so that it's not escalated to leadership as well.
Our leadership also is monitoring the cycle time from start to finish. So if you have an IA that you request an IA number, if you leave it, if it's there more than, I would say, 2 weeks to 4 weeks, we will be following up on those. So if you're, you should request an IA number when you're ready to actually process the IA, because if it's sitting in the workflow of request IA number, we will be following up with those frequently.
If you have an IA that you know that you're going to have to do, but you're not ready to request the number yet, that should be in your forecast workflow. Mm-hmm. So in SharePoint, there's a forecast workflow where you would input anything that you project in FY17 that's going to happen. And then once you get the IA number, you'll go in and put the IA number in. You should be getting emails from SharePoint for any projections that you put in that you haven't already put an IA number for to remind you to request the IA number. Mm-hmm. But that's a good way for us all to keep track of our workloads and things that are going to happen this year so that nothing falls under the radar. Mm-hmm. It's a good way to keep track of making sure that, oh, this is supposed to happen, but oh, we need to request an IA number now, and we need to start working on these documents because 60 days from the start date is coming up. It's going to help all of us in the long run. Kiana?
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of, in CCSQ, a lot of times what happens is we'll request an IA number, or whoever's working on the IA will request the number, and they'll use that information to start populating their documents and working with the partnering agency and those types of things. Right. But it'll probably be way more than 2 weeks before you guys will get, catch wind of any documents that we've done or anything with that IA number. So is it better for us I'm really not sure how that would work without us getting reminders every, so often about submitting these agreements, because we'll probably have requested the number and holding the documents for a while on our end just to even get it through super user review.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you don't get dinged for requesting a number, okay. But we have some that we've had numbers requested back in September and we haven't seen the documents yet. So it shouldn't take us from September to now for something that was supposed to start on 10/1. What we're trying to get is out of the process of backdating everything to 10/1. So this year, and I believe last year we started, if the agreement had not started yet, we'll put upon final signature as the start date. We really need to be processing our agreements more timely. So we're trying to keep on track of those as well. Instead of backdating everything to 10, some things have to be backdated to 10/1. But if it's backdated to 10/1, we should have an agreement in place by now. We still should not be holding on to the program office having the information and nothing has come to OAGM at this point in time. Either is it going to happen or do it need to be canceled? So we're trying to prevent having IAA numbers sitting there for months without any activity at all. But we understand that if you have something that you're working on and you request a number, it's good to request a number because that's your tracking mechanism. But at least you're working on it. But there are some that aren't being worked on, and those are the ones that we're concerned about.
Correct.
I have another question.
Sure. This is your question and answer time. We're here for you all. So this is what this meeting, this training is all about. It's about helping you so that we can know how to prepare future trainings.
So another thing, the due date to OAGM, and you know I've emailed you guys about this because I love this idea. We've been doing it in CCSQ, like trying to manually keep track of due dates or times that we expect agreements to come to super user review, for super user review. But I was hoping, and I know you said I had to ask other super users, how you guys felt about having a column on SharePoint as well that's a due date for super user review. So it's almost exactly identical to what OAGM has, but then we would have a certain, backdate a certain number of days where we know that we're anticipating an agreement so we can be able to keep track of our workload as well. So any feedback that you can give to Tyra about that to at least help me get that on SharePoint, I greatly appreciate that.
So we get a lot of great feedback from CCSQ. That's one component that they always provide feedback. They always provide suggestions. They were the group that really initiated wanting to have the super user process in SharePoint. We also got some feedback like, why did we do this? But it's a role that was supposed to be done anyway, so it was very positive to put it in SharePoint. So when Kiana asked that question, I said, well, let's propose that question to the super user as a group to get your feedback on, do you think that adding a date field in the IAA number request form, as we have the OAGM due date, have a super user super user due date, so that you all can keep track of your workload as well, or the IAAs that are supposed to be due to you all from your cores. So we'd like to get some feedback on that now. So does anyone want to step to the mic and let us know how you feel, or do we just want to take Kiana's proposal and add it?
I agree. This is Roland on the phone.
Thank you. Those on the phone can't hear you.
I would say that I could second it, but I think that my question was, if it is added to SharePoint, is it somehow reflected in our own Outlook calendars, or do we have to manually add it there too? Like, what is the benefit of just having it in SharePoint?
Yeah, SharePoint does have reporting capabilities, and on the monthly report, it'll be added on the monthly report, due date to a column for due date to super user, which you'll be able to track IAs that are still open with no activity, that has not been sent to you timely.
Okay, that sounds good. I second it.
Anyone else? We don't want to roll it out and then you all call us and say, why did we do this? Can you come to the mic? I'm sorry. Come on.
Hi, this is Lachelle from OHC.
Hi,
and,
Lachelle.
I agree. I think it would be good. We in the BOSS group, we're teamed up with different groups, so sometimes we miss things, and I think this would be great. In case someone's out of the office for an extended period of time, the other team member will be able to catch it.
Sounds great.
I agree.
Any more input? We have 4 yays.
I'd ask maybe that it be optional, because in our group we just have us three super users, I guess, in OEDA, and we basically we each take the IA and we're in charge of it. And the super user review is just one step that, say for instance, my colleague Kim just has to go in and it's just her approval because she trusts that I do it. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it would be any benefit to us in our area, but it seems like it benefits all of them.
So this is Kara from OEDA, and she does a lot of reimbursable IAAs. So her IAAs are pretty much where other agencies reach out to CMS to request data. So hers are a little different than when we're the requesting agency and we're asking another agency to provide services to us. Her IAAs is with CMS as the servicing agency. So it may not be as beneficial to you because you already know what your workload is working with the other agencies.
Exactly.
So, trying to think of a workaround for
Or
you.
maybe the type, well, if most of them deal with, what are they mostly dealing with, assisted acquisitions?
Well, they deal with assisted and non-assisted, but most of their IAs is where we're the requesting agency.
Oh, well then maybe it could be a field for specific to requesting agency IAs, where we're the, could you do that?
We could do that, but I do have an option for you because all of your IAs, for all reimbursable IAs, the due date for the package to be in OAGM is June 30th because the IA has to be fully executed in OFM by August 30th. So you can have a default date of June 30th. Would that work for you, just to automatically put a default date of June 30th?
That would work. That'd be fine.
Because for your, a lot of yours, even with the OAGM due date, we put 6/30 in yours as well.
Yeah, and we'll probably have to be doing that now as it comes near the close instead
Right.
of upon final signatures. Yeah.
This is Steve Chu. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've just been picking July 31st as my default date for all of them, even though I get my funds around September 16th.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining, but your due date is June 30th. You don't get the July 31st due date. Yours are reimbursables. So your cutoff is June 30th.
Hey, Tyra, it's Diana. Would ours be similar to what the one you were just talking about? And we're the servicing agency for the VA.
Yes. Hi, Diana.
Agency
Thanks for
agreement.
joining. Yes, yours would be June 30th as well. But,
Okay.
Yep. So anytime CMS is the servicing agency, it's called a reimbursable IA, and the funding has to be obligated in OFM. The IA has to be fully executed. The funding has to be obligated in OFM by August 30th. That is because we have reimbursable authority, and a lot of times that funding has to go on a contract. So you have to allow a contracts office to be able to make a modification or new award or task order or whatever it is that is needed. You have to give them time because the cutoff to have all IAs in OFM is September 15th. So that's a very short turnaround time for them to do a contract action. So that's why we have to have enough cutoff time to allow other work to be done so that the need can be met. But for the cutoff date for when CMS is the requesting agency, the forms have to be, the IA package has to be in OAGM by July 31st. Servicing agency is June 30th, requesting agency is July 31st. Because a lot of times we're doing sweep funding and budgets are finalized in the fourth quarter of additional funds that are available, and that's when we get the bulk of our IAs in that fourth quarter. Yeah. So in order for us to all get them done and processed by both agencies timely, we have to have a cutoff. A lot of agencies' cutoff is June 1st. So I know that some of you all may have had some issues last year where other agencies were pounding on us to get the IA back to them because they weren't going to accept it after a certain date. I know CDC and NIH have a specific cutoff date that they will not accept IAs from other agencies, and that's before our cutoff date. So if you have something like that, please reach out to your federal partners to make sure that we are within the timelines to get our information back to them so that we can get our requirement met as well.
This is Christy Lewis. Will any of the dates that you just went over be in any of the reference material?
I'm sorry, Christy. I really could not hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
Can you hear me better?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Will any of the dates that you just went over be included in any of the IAA reference documentation?
So those dates are on the AGX, which is our intranet for OAGM.
Okay.
And you should be seeing This Just In come out soon. With those dates will be included in that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are you familiar with the AGX?
Yes, okay. I have it bookmarked.
Yep, it should be a section that says important dates.
Okay.
Yep, and they should be in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll also add that to our resource section that will be added in today.
Okay,
And under
thanks.
SharePoint, the IAA process tab.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. You are so welcome. Okay. Also, did we add the glossary in the PowerPoint?
Not in the PowerPoint.
Okay, so it's not in the PowerPoint, but in your packet is a glossary of acronyms. We just wanted to, this is going to be added to the resource section as well, but we wanted to provide you all with some, the information on some of the acronyms that are frequently used in our area. And if you all have any that you want to add on, just send us an email. We'll add them on as well.
The next part is just the frequently asked questions document that we developed as well. That's in your handout as well. I think I sent it out to everybody, and it will be posted on the SharePoint. These are our questions that we have received throughout, trainings, and that's frequently asked by new, old, when we're training. So we put together this document to help everybody, whether you're new, older, you need a refresher of questions that come about with IAs. So if you can look, there's 28 questions, and we received a lot of questions from you guys as well. That's why I asked for questions that you had before a certain date so that I can add it to the document. So if you read through the document, yeah.
Okay, so the first question was, there are two types of IAs, interagency and intra-agency agreement. We get this question all the time as far as what's the difference between the two. They're pretty much the same, except for one is used for federal, when you're working with a federal agency or department, and one is used when you're working with a federal opdiv within HHS. So if it's within HHS, it's intra-agency. Anything that's not related to HHS is interagency. And then we provide the FAR definition of interagency acquisition, which is the procedure by which an agency needing supplies or services obtains them from another agency by an assisted acquisition, a direct acquisition, or a non-assisted acquisition through a transfer of funds. So you want to remember that an interagency agreement is used when there is a transfer of funds. If it's not a transfer of funds, another vehicle is used. Also, we get questioned a lot about, is there a minimal dollar threshold for interagency agreements? There is no minimum or maximum dollar amount for IAs. What are IAA super users? What is the role of the IAA process, and how do I find my components ISU? The ISUs are the workforce that creates a lean, accountable, efficient, effective process, removing barriers that hinder results. ISUs provide assistance to their components, IAA stakeholders, with completing the necessary documents and clearances required to meet specific IAA requirements. OAGM provides training and guidance to the ISUs regularly to keep them up to date on current changes and other pertinent information needed. The purpose of the ISU is to serve as the leader for your component, to review the agreement and provide assistance on the process and completion of forms, provide understanding to the CMS cores of the specific requirements related to providing oversight on the contracts, invoices, etc. Also, allowing IAAs to be reviewed quicker, eliminate error, and provide better clarity on the agency's need. See the ISU list in the SharePoint site under the IAA dashboard. There's a tab for the ISU, and it provides the name of the ISU, email, and phone number for each component. Number 5 is there IAA training available to familiarize stakeholders with the IAA process? There are PowerPoint trainings from each session that we did from 1 through 5 that are available on the AGX under the training tab. It's under other training, and each PowerPoint is available for the super users, the cores, their management. Anyone that wants to get any training on the IAA process, that training is available to you. So the trainings that we've done before was a general overview of the IAA process. We did a training on the 7600A form, each sections 1 through 23. We've done a training on the 7600B form, sections 24 through 40, and we've done a training on the addendum. We did get some feedback on other ISUs wanted training on the MOU, MOA, and IDDA, and the DNF, so we will be doing future trainings on those. But we do want your input on other trainings that you all feel are necessary, or if you feel that further training is needed on the 7600AB and addendum. How do I get started with processing an IAA, and who do I contact if I have a question? You contact your components IAA superuser. We know that we keep saying the superuser, but you all are the first line contact because we're all in separate buildings. People don't know who to reach out to first. So that was the purpose of the role of the superuser, to kind of aid in helping those who didn't know where to start, what to do, to have the superuser be the first line of contact. So, I stress this all the time. I say it all the time, and I really hope that you all feel in my heart that we really do appreciate you all taking on this role. We know that it's an extra workload for you all, but it is definitely appreciated, and I hope that your management and leadership appreciate the role that you all have taken on as well. The next step is to download the 7600 forms, addendum, DNF if applicable, and any other agency-related internal forms. Review the IAA training PowerPoints. We reiterate to keep reviewing the PowerPoints. You'll eventually, whatever you didn't understand, you'll get it. If you don't get it, reach out to Renita now. We'll help you all. We're here to help you. You're not out there alone. This is a team effort. So we're not just saying go read the PowerPoints and learn it on your own. We're saying read the PowerPoints, and what you don't understand, reach out to us and we'll help you. Go to the SharePoint IAA process tab, the document type process to download the IAA workflow SharePoint process document. Work with the federal partner on completing the forms, and you can also contact Renita and I through the IAA resource mailbox, or call us up as well. So we're at question number 6. We want to stop just to see if anyone have any questions related to those or any input on your own. Any questions on the phone? Hi, Isaiah. Okay, question 7. What documents do I need to process an IAA, and where do I find the documents? 1 second. The CMS sample 7600 forms and addendum are currently under the IAA process tab. We provide the documents as sample document forms, which has pre-populated CMS information, and there's things that are pretty much the same every time you fill out the document, so that you won't have to remember some of that stuff. You can just fill in what's needed related to your specific requirement. Does someone have a question on the phone?
Yes, this is Sarah. I was wondering if we could have a section on the SharePoint for super user. You said a lot of the training that has taken place is on the
I'm sorry, Sarah, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that, please? You're breaking up.
Yes. I was wondering if a lot of the can you add a section on the SharePoint page for super users, which would include all of the training that you just mentioned?
So,
instead of we having to go to the acquisition and grants page, we would have everything associated with IA, including the training, on the SharePoint page.
Okay, we can add that to the resource section.
That would be great.
Thank you. Any other questions or proposals? Concerns?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Steve Chu.
Hi, Steve Chu.
Hi, I had a question about when the DNF is required. When you request the form, it says the DNF is required above $2,500,000. for assisted acquisition.
The DNF is required for assisted acquisitions 500,000 or greater. The DNF
500,000 or greater.
Yes.
So why are my acquisitions requiring a DNF when they are assisted acquisitions for about 100,000?
Your IAAs are reimbursable IAAs. So each agency have their own internal process. Based off of the FAR section 17.5, a DNF is required for all assisted acquisitions that are under the Economy Act. CMS have their own internal process. We only require us doing a DNF currently for IAAs that are assisted acquisitions that are 500,000 or greater. That could change. We have new management that could change. So a DNF may be required for all assisted acquisitions, but currently right now it's 500,000 or greater.
Okay.
So your IAAs, because they're coming from other agencies, they may have a certain dollar amount, or they just may do them for all IAAs. It's each agency's preference. Okay?
And is the DNF sent signed, while the 7600 A, B, and addendum are sent unsigned?
The DNF must be signed when the IAA is fully executed. CMS requires the DNF to be signed at the time we are requesting the funding official to sign it, because it's too challenging to go back to make sure we got the DNF signed after we've gone through approving the documents. So at that point, once OAGM approves the documents, the CO will sign the DNF, and once the documents are ready for the funding official's signature, we'll ask for the program office to have their internal signatures completed and to have the DNF returned back with the IAA signed by funding official.
Okay,
that way,
so I should get, what you're saying is I should get my IA package signed piecemeal then. I should have only the DNF signed along with my funding official Dave Thursky's signature, re-uploaded, and then go back to the CDC and say, please sign the rest of the form.
if CMS is the requesting agency, we require the DNF to be signed at the time the funding official signs the documents.
But we are the servicing agency.
If CMS
can we just sign at the end?
If CMS is the servicing agency, the DNF must be signed at the time the documents are fully executed.
Okay. Okay. I will email you about this, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve Chu. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. I'll take some.
What do I need to do before I submit an IA to OAGM for review? We get this question a lot. So we wanted to make sure everybody understands that you double check and make sure that both agencies have looked at the documents. They concurred with the draft, the final draft. The draft should be final before it comes to us. So a lot of times we'll get it, we'll approve it, and then it's sent to the other agency and they make a lot of changes. Try to make sure that the documents are already concurred before they come to OAGM for review. That really will cut down on the back and forth and the processing time. Make sure you work with your components, and this is for the cores, make sure they're working with you guys to ensure the documents are completely correct and they're complete. So before they come to us, in SharePoint, they have to come to the super users. So you guys should make sure that you're reviewing the documents, using all the resources that you have available, whether it's the trainings, the checklists, the frequently asked questions, all the resources you have to make sure that these documents are accurate and complete before they come to us. Why? So that it can cut down on the back and forth and the processing time. And also making sure that the components, ICUs, approve the documents in SharePoint before they come to us. So when they come to us and they're approved by the super users, we're assuming that you have checked them for completeness and accuracy. If you have questions as a super user on anything in the documents, that's when you can reach out to Tyra or I on anything that you need, so that when it comes to us, those things will already be pretty much solved when it comes to us, and we can just double check. We just want to be a second set of eyes over these documents to make sure that, nothing is falling through the cracks. But we are assuming that the super users are reviewing them for completeness and accuracy.
Before we go on, I just want to encourage the super users. I know that sometimes once we've been getting documents in SharePoint and the super user has reviewed them, sometimes a lot of the information has not been reviewed. So we really want to have this training to figure out how can we help the super user. What is it that we can help you all with so that we can minimize the rejections? The rejections are being tracked through leadership, and we want to make sure that we're giving you all what you need so that when you are looking at the documents, and once we get them, that we can process them straight through with minimal questions, or we don't even want to do a rejection. We really want to help you. So we need to know how we can help you. We need to know how we can help you all so that when we get the documents, they're not coming back to you all with all these lists of comments and we have to keep rejecting. I can't stress enough how bad we want to help you. Can you, they can't hear you on the phone. Renee Heschel just asked, since there are a lot of new users, why can't we do the trainings again? We did 8 road shows last year, and we probably had a handful of IAA participants. 8. So that's when the ISU role, that's how the ISU role came about, because we were inviting the whole CMS-wide community to come to learn about IAAs, the processes, and no one was showing up. So we put the ISU role in because we needed someone pretty much in the field, someone who was actually in the component, who can learn this information, who can assist people, because there's so much turnover. Some people only work on IAAs one time and they don't remember the process. So it's like, okay, well, let's train a smaller size. Let's make it mandatory. And you see, this is mandatory training, and you see this is pretty empty in here. So, we're doing all that we can, and we really do want to help you all. We're here to help. We want to help. We want to help the entire agency to be better at the process, to be better at processing IAAs. But the two of us can't do it alone when it's over 4,000 people that we can deal with. We can reach out to us at any given time. So, Renee, we could do this training all day long, but if people don't come, it's not benefiting. Well, the new user should be reaching out to the super user. So the goal is to train the super user so that, because we never know when there's a new user, but you all are in the components, so you know when there is a new user. And we've gone to other components and did one-on-one trainings. We've done one-on-one trainings monthly with some components. We're here to help, however, in whichever way that we can. But if we don't hear from you all, we don't know how to help. So we keep stressing, how can we help? Even when we don't have trainings, we'll still reach out to our super users, and do a one-on-one session, like, how can we help you? Are your needs being met? Do you all understand, what the role is? Is there any questions that you all have? But even when we do that, we still don't get a lot of feedback. So if it's some training that you want in CPI, we're more than willing to come over. Well, we thank you, and we want to hear that we're being helpful. We definitely are here to help. But if any of your components have, training needs, we're here to help you. We're here to help you to put together some training for yourselves so that if you want to train, like Kiana has done CCSQ training on her own based off of the trainings that we provided. So if there's anything we can do to help, we're here. We're here for you all. I can't stress it enough.
So for us at CCSQ, one of the main rejections that we get back is about the scope of work section. So I don't know about the other super users, if you guys are cores or, have to develop scopes of work. Crystal and I, we aren't, right? So a lot of that we wouldn't know what to catch, and in some cases what to look for. So I don't know if it's possible to have like a training specifically maybe on the rejections that you guys get back from the scope of work sections that could possibly help us to navigate through that, but that's one section we definitely need more training on.
Okay, we actually have one of those questions in the frequently asked questions. But as far as the scope of work, each requirement is different. So the need could be different in the IAA structure could be different based off of the need. So it's kind of hard to train on the scope of work. The cores get scope of work training and core training. And I understand, because you all aren't cores, it's a little challenging for you all to be able to do the reviews, but the cores are the ones, they're cores on the IAAs for a reason. They know what the need is, they know what we're requesting, they know what we're paying for. So they are the best source for you to be able to go to. But that's seem more of so you may have to reach out to management on that, because if a core doesn't know what they're core on or what their responsibility is or what their requirement is that they're providing oversight on, that's not something that I can tell you or any of the ISUs can tell you. That's something that's a management issue. Okay. Okay. I do. So Kiana didn't step up to the mic for those who are on the phone, but her concern was trying to put together a training based off of OAGM rejections for anything related to the scope of work to better help the super user to be able to look at the IAA documents and catch before OAGM rejects it. Okay. So some of the things that OAGM look at, and it's kind of hard for us to say because, like I said, each requirement is different. So when we're looking at the documents, we're not looking at them based off of another IAA. We're actually looking at it based off of the document that we received. Some of the things in there, sometimes it's not enough detail. The scope should be clear. Someone other than us should be able to pick up the document and understand what the scope is.
Can you please mute your phones? Please mute your phones. Thank you.
Anything related to travel, I know I've seen a lot in the scope of work, it talks about travel, but there's no budget for travel. There was no review for travel. Part of the HHS conference policy includes travel. So that requires prior approval. So it's travel, meetings, conferences, all of that fall within the HHS conference policy, which we all have to follow. All HHS OPDIs have to follow. We just did an IAA with NIH where they were doing a conference, but we still had to reach out because we were providing funding on that IAA. We still had to reach out to our OFM to get an approval based off of the portion of funding we were providing on the IAA, although NIH had to do their own internal conference approval as well. So all of that is involved when travel is involved. there's a PowerPoint on the AGX for the conference policy that entails the thresholds on the level of approval that you need. So you have to look at that PowerPoint when you know there's a conference, when you know that there are meetings, when you know that there's travel, to see what type of approvals you all will need to have, or the Corps will need to get prior to submitting the IA to OAGM. But that's one main thing I know that sticks out a lot, that there's travel involved. Also, another thing that I've seen on a couple IAAs is where other agencies are providing FTE support to us, which is a non-assisted IAA, and I've seen where they had the FTE from the other agency being a core on the CMS IAA. And even a core, I've seen it where they had it being a core on our contract. Well, another agency core cannot be a core on another agency's contract, not CMS, as from what I understand. So those are some of the things that we catch. We can't expect you all to catch everything. We probably don't catch everything. Because we have contracts knowledge, we have now some super users who have contract knowledge, so some of those things will be caught, but we don't expect you to catch everything, but those things related to the checklist, those things that are related to the trainings that we provided with the 7,600 forms, those are like the basics. Those are the things that you have to fill out all the time. Some of that, like as far as when we're doing a contract action, the period of performance for the for the agreement period start date in Section 5 on the 7600A form should follow the contract period of performance of the other agency's contract. Sometimes we have to negotiate with the terms because the other agency don't want us to put in there. Sometimes we put text language in there. It may say upon final signature through the end of the contract period of performance date, or we may put in there NIH task order pop language in there, and they want a specific date. So then we may have to tweak some things. We try to be flexible as much as we can when we can. But for the basics, it should be the agency's contract period of performance dates. When it's a non-assisted acquisition and the agreement period should not go past the end of the fiscal year. It can't cross the end of the fiscal year. So those just some of the basic things that we see that aren't being caught when they're being reviewed is what we're trying to reiterate and retrain on, and to get a good understanding on it. But as far as the scope of work, that's kind of a little iffy because each requirement is different. We may see something that may not have been caught by you all, and that's okay. But the basic things, we want to try to eliminate those rejections. So we were just asked if we meet with people after they get rejections, and that answer is we have not. We've done the trainings. We've met with the super users on, how can we help them better. But we haven't met with the individual cores after they're being rejected because we encourage the super users to do that. Another question that we were asked by Jason Utz and CMCS is he wanted to know if we track their rejections. So we want to know, are the super users tracking the rejections? Because we can't track everyone's rejections. But what we can do is we can work individually with the components, and we can take a look at the rejections and train within the component on whatever the consistencies are with your rejections. So if you all, when you're doing your reviews, and because you're the first line, we may not even know all the rejections that you all get before it even comes to us. So if you all are keeping track of, well, this core keeps making this same mistake, maybe we should work with this core. Or maybe this core should have to come to the mandatory trainings. But again, if we don't get the input from you all, we don't know how to help. But we're here to help.
Hey, Tyra. This is Jason. I was just more or less looking for a list of common errors, for
requisitions and CAMs, OFM provided us a list of about 10 things that are like most common errors that they see. And I just thought that if you guys review enough IAAs, that you would probably have a pretty good idea of like the top 20 errors that you see, and that would be a good thing for us to start with when we're trying to train our cores.
Right. So we don't do that. What we do is the comments are in SharePoint. SharePoint tracks the date, the time, and the comments. So every time we reject something, all of our comments are in SharePoint. We don't go back and keep a list of the rejections. And because SharePoint isn't as suave as CAMS, we're not there yet. We do hope to get there, but it takes a lot of manpower for us to go back and track every rejection and to also meet the need of getting the IAAs reviewed. So it's 2 of us, but it's a multitude of the ISU community along with us. So that's why we ask, if you look at your rejections, we can work with your group. Every group may not have the same issues. So one group might have certain cores that does not understand certain parts and may have the same rejections, whereas though your component, Jason, may have rejections related to something else. So us to provide a list of rejections from everyone that may not even be related to what you're seeing may not be as beneficial as us looking at your rejections to see what we can provide further training.
And also the checklist was developed with that in mind, with making sure, because a lot of times there's missing documents, there's missing clearances. So those were the things that we found was a lot of outstanding items. So the checklist was built based on the top issues that we have found. So it will help you when you are submitting your documents to make sure that you have them. So that was kind of what was in mind when we developed the checklist. We have a question from Melanie.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
So have you guys, I'm sorry, this is important. Have you guys ever thought about creating a reference guide or something of the nature? When I came to CMS, there were issues with really understanding contracts and the contract process. So me and one of my colleagues developed a handbook that was like 40 pages to help new employees who were coming on board who didn't have any background whatsoever. BOG had a book that was very, very informative, but just like anything else, like you said, there are very few people here today. We constantly had issues with people not, understanding, so we created a handbook, and we have the handbook in existence today. So just like the person on the phone was saying, there are frequent questions Kiana was talking about, people who really don't know what you're looking for in the scope of work. I review contracts daily, so I know what to look for. I'm learning the IA portion so that I know what to look for in your document. So I think if people don't come here for whatever reason, we know there are various reasons, but if there's a guide or something that people can go to on the OAGM website so that they can use it as a reference, so it could alleviate some of the problems you're confronted with when you receive the IAs.
So we are going to add the frequently asked questions to the website, to the IAA SharePoint site. We are going to add the checklist. The IAA step-by-step process for the workflow is already there. Are you asking to put all that into one?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's in one location in SharePoint, but it's related to various things. So
I'm just, the reason why I say I'm inquiring because people, and it's happening in CCSQ, where people who don't understand the contract language, and then the IAA may be simplistic or simple to you because this is your swim lane. But you have people who come in who don't understand contracts, and then they're asked to do an IAA. So there's a double dose of not understand, 2 documents that they don't understand. So if there's a way in which a simple handbook we could be put together, you guys could put together, just with frequent, questions, just a guide. I can show you the handbook we put together for the contract in QUIG, QIIG, so you can see basically what I'm talking about. I don't know if you have time. I know you have a lot of work. Your workload is, and it may prevent you from doing this, but it was beneficial. When I first came in, we had really problems. We had problems, and we had a 360 turnaround. People just don't, and you say scope of work, statement of work, put it together. We created templates for people to drop in the language from the IGCE. We got BOG input, and it really, really helped the new employees, especially people who don't have any background.
Okay, well, we're open to suggestions, and
I'll
I'll be
come and
interested in
see
seeing
it.
what you have. But
Okay.
we put together the Black Book as a resource for our super users to hand over to new users as well.
Okay.
But we are open to hearing what you have available to see if it's something more that we can help out with.
So we can, in some kind of way, reduce the rejections, so we can get the IAs and we deliver them, not keep sending them back and forth. Because
That's what we want.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tyra and Rita, it's Matt Clark. Could I ask you a quick question?
Sure. Hi, Matt.
Hi. So, me and Jason and CMCS, I think we've been pretty good at the process for the last year or so, and that's all because you guys have helped us out a lot. So, thank you a ton for helping us along. But one thing that we've seen lately is that certain review processes, like privacy clearance and some of the obligation sign-offs and OFM, are taking longer than like 10 days or so, almost 2-3 weeks. Do you have any advice on how we can speed that up, or any way we can get through to other people faster?
So you're talking about you sent us an email this morning in reference to the funding official not signing the DOBs timely. Is that what you're talking about? Because I can barely. You sound a little muffled on the phone, so I'm trying to understand exactly what you're asking.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's correct. The other issue is that privacy clearance takes sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, and that's a long time that really slows down our IAAs.
So Matt is talking about when you all send your request to the privacy office to have the request reviewed to get the approval, that sometimes it takes a while for them to get back to you. We have reached out to the privacy office, and we will reach out again because we want them to do a training for you all. To at least provide some timelines and what their expectations are. They did come to our last training back in, what was that, July, August. And Mike Pagels came and talked about their expectations and what they require in the documents prior to them doing a review. But we will reach out to them again to see if we can get them to come do a specific training on the privacy and information security section, and to provide some timelines for you all to help everyone have a better expectation on what to look for, when to expect the reviews back. As far as the funding officials, we can reach out to Torian Henderson and Chris Kearns to get some input from them on a timeline for the funding officials to turn documents back around to you all. But again, we would have to reach out to those other groups, because that's not something that we review, but we're here to assist you all. We're here to connect the dots to make sure that the entire process is working correctly. So Matt, we have that on our list to reach out to Torian and Chris, and to reach out to Walter and Clarence group to see what kind of trainings we can get put in place.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you both.
No, thank you. We appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Do you have another question?
I do. It's not related to that, though.
Okay.
A good question is, how do I use SharePoint to upload documents, and how do I get to the IA SharePoint? So this is a question we get all the time. We do have a document called the IA Workflow SharePoint Process. Also did trainings, tried to do one-on-one trainings with each component to kind of show you how to upload documents, how to go through the workflow process in SharePoint. So if you still have questions, if you need to set up some time with me or Tyra to go through it again, we're happy to help. But here's the link. Is actually, we rolled it out in September, so we're almost going on a good 9 months of using SharePoint. I hope it's been helpful for everybody. We tried to make it so it can streamline the process. So we're hoping, it's working. We do have kind of quirks here and there, but we're working them out, and we're trying to actually improve it. So we have seen a difference, but this document's really good. It's a step-by-step process. So if you open that document, it will show you how to do step, click this, go to that, click this link, and make sure that you're definitely keeping those emails. I think the emails are the key to making sure that you continue that workflow process. It tells you exactly what to do in the emails. We try to be as detailed as possible when it comes to those emails and their instruction. So if you keep with those emails, it should really make the process a lot easier. Yes, Kiana.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's what you're here for.
So with SharePoint, before we introduced, we had some people request numbers before the super user workflow was introduced. So as a result, when they're uploading, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in SharePoint, uploading documents, and then they're following the instructions, and they're bypassing super user review and then going straight to you guys, because that's the way the workflow was set up before.
Right.
We were suggesting to counter that they send the documents to us via email, and then we would review them before they upload it to SharePoint, right? So then it could still continue its normal flow. But we had one that kind of slipped through, and now the suggestion was for us to look at or review the documents as they are on SharePoint.
That was 1751.
1751.
Yes. So that we don't know what your internal processes are.
Yeah.
So your core reached out to us. We were actually on a call, and she said, so I have to take all these documents and put them in the email and send them to Keon. I said, well, if you already have them in SharePoint, just send Keon an email letting her know that they're available for her to review. So what Keon is talking about is every time we add to the process, it starts another workflow, which means that the workflows has to catch up at some point. So if the IAs were requested back in September up through December, and we added something to the workflow process to make it a better process. Those IAs aren't in the new workflow with the new add-on. So it has to get caught up. So when we added on the super user review process, the IAs that were requested prior to that aren't actually in that workflow. So the IAs have to be reviewed outside of SharePoint by the super user. Any IAs that were added after that workflow status was added, you'll get a request through SharePoint from an email stating that it's time for a super user review. So this is kind of a year where we're just kind of getting it the way we want it. There's been so many changes on, okay, can we do this now? I think, we're excited about having SharePoint, and we want to make process improvements now. So I think this year is the year of making the process improvements. There's some kinks that we have to work out because of the fact that it doesn't go back and pick up where we left off. It starts from at the time that we initiated the new process. Next year, we should have everything in place and everything will flow properly. But, so for those IAs that were already in SharePoint that weren't, and we can't even track to see which ones they were that were in the old process versus the new process. Only the SharePoint developer can. Steve and Victor, they are wonderful to work with. They're very responsive. You can put in a SharePoint help desk ticket by selecting the question mark in the SharePoint, and you can reach out to them about any of those concerns. They can help you know which ones was in the old workflow versus the new workflow, so that you can work with your cores to let them know what process they need to follow. That should only be, like I said, for this fiscal year because of all the changes we made. Kiana just made a new proposal of adding the super user due date. So that may not take effect with the ones that are already in there. So we have to go in and backdate and put all of those in. But it will take effect for any new ones that are put in going forward. So it's just a little kinks that we have to work out, but we'll work through them. It's going to work out fine. It's a whole lot better than doing the email back and forth that we were doing. Everything is transparent. You can see exactly where your documents are on the dashboard. You can see what the status is. So, we're all on one accord versus having emails and no one knowing what's going on. Where's OAGM in the review process? Is this with OFM now? Is this with the program office now, on the dashboard, it shows you every step of the way where your IAA is. So we're hoping that this process is a lot better. You have any more questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go on.
All right, so this one's not about SharePoint, but it is about the upfront calls that we started doing this year. So having our group, our CCSQ, and then OAGM, and then the partnering agency all in one call in the beginning and ironing out things.
Okay.
I was wondering if there's like a time frame in which we should do that. So let's just say everybody they have most of the documents together, and then now we have that call. Is there a way that we can kind of schedule these calls for all of our agreements that we know of? I just want to make sure it's happening for each and every one of our agreements, because I found them to be very helpful and useful.
Okay. So Kiana is talking about CCSQ has pretty much been the guinea pigs for the checklist, our 5-page checklist that is now narrowed down to 1 page. We try to narrow it down to make it user friendly and to encourage people to use it. Sometimes when you have so much reading for people to do, it's more discouraging for them to do it. So we try to change it to a 1-pager to encourage everyone to use it based off of some of the feedback that we've been getting. We also had Cheryl as one of our guinea pigs as well. But what CCSQ did this fiscal year was they set up a meeting with OAGM, their core, and the super user, and their federal partner. And we were all on a call together. We went through the documents. This was a way for them to eliminate some of the rejections when it came through to us. Kiana, if you could step up and tell us how that has it been helpful doing that, or have you seen less rejections? Because the purpose of doing that is to eliminate the rejections, to eliminate the back and forth, to get, once the documents actually came in final draft, we should be able to push them straight on through and get them processed.
So I'll be honest, that hasn't happened. We haven't been able to push them straight on through, but we have been able to have our cores ask a lot of questions up front and then work out the instances where the partnering agency might not want to use text language. They might want exact dates, those type of hurdles. We have been able to get past those.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's been really, really helpful. Also, we've been doing the timelines on those calls as well. So that's been helpful too.
Okay, so the timeline that Kiana is talking about. So in contracts, for those who work on contracts, we use an acquisition planning a milestone schedule. So I put together something similar to that when we were on a call with NIH. We had an IAA that was urgent. We knew what the drop dead due date was, but we didn't know what our timeline was as far as getting things back and forth through agencies. So I was working backwards while we were on the call and put together a timeline. Kiana did propose having that for every IAA. So we do want to get super user feedback on that, because that may only work for Kiana and her group. It may not work for every super user and their workload and the way they review IAAs and their process. So we can do that for CCSQ. If you all want us to do it for you all, we can do that as well, but we want to get your feedback on if you think that's going to be something that's beneficial for you all. Anyone?
They're going to put you out, Kiana.
You're doing good. We really appreciate you. We really do. You've given us some good things to work on, some good process improvements. So we welcome that. We thank you for that.
We really do.
Hi, ladies. I'm Tanya Smith.
Hi. I'm sorry. You came to Maryland. How are you? Hello. I'm sorry. Hi guys, we're sorry. We get to talk to you all on the phone so much, and we never know who we're talking with. So you talk to LaTanya for months.
Months. My question, well, one, to answer your question about having a timeline, I think that would be very helpful. But I wanted to go back to something regarding the SharePoint workflow, because I think, well, for my 2 IAs, I was one that got caught where we started before the SharePoint process, which was fine. But my question is, now that the super user part is in place, will it allow for being able to, say for instance, for the addendum or the DNF form, can there be editing between the super user and the core in SharePoint before, so that both parties can go through and edit instead of having to send these documents through email? Can that process be done in SharePoint before it gets moved forward?
So SharePoint does allow documents to be shared and edited. We recommend that you do your sharing and editing prior to starting the workflow for OAGM's review, because we need to have a final draft that both agencies concurred with at the time we start our reviews. Oftentimes, we may not have that final draft, and then we have to start, we're working backwards. So we do request the final draft that whatever the federal partner says they want to have in it, whatever the core and the super user agree to have in it, all concurs to one document that starts the review process. So you can do that. We do see, when we originally started the SharePoint process, you were supposed to upload documents when they were ready to be reviewed, but we do see the documents are in SharePoint that haven't even started the workflow yet. Even in the IAA number request form, documents have been uploaded. So we're okay with that. If you all choose to share documents and make changes in them without having to go through the email or extra on your part, that's okay with us, as long as they're in final draft when they come to us. But that means no other changes, because once we start our review, we save our documents that we reviewed on our G drive. So we know what the final documents are that we reviewed, so that there should not be any other changes after they come to OAGM. The only other issue with that is that you can't share the 7600 forms because they're PDF, but the Word documents you can. Okay. Hi.
Hi. I just had a suggestion with regards to the changes that were suggested to be made. I was thinking maybe if you all could send out a like an Outlook, a message with the voting option, and that way people who aren't here, or maybe people who just don't want to volunteer at the microphone their opinion, we could just, and that way we could get an overall vote for everyone.
We will definitely do that. Thank you. So,
hi, this is Pat. I have a question. You said that the email, that it should be the primary source of you getting back to the workflow. Can we add that to the checklist?
Add the email?
Yes, that you should refer back to the email, when uploading and making changes.
Yes, we can add that to the checklist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we try to keep it at one page, so we might have to. we don't want it to be. We'll work it out. We'll add it to the checklist for you all to keep your emails as a reference to responding to the workflow. Hi, Mr. Isaiah.
Hi.
This is Isaiah from CMMI.
Hey, everyone. Going back to the timelines, CMMI, we've been doing, we call it a timeline and milestone chart. And basically what we do is we take the anticipated award date, when the Corps comes to you and says, hey, I need something, an IA in place by July 1st. I work back from that day and I ask, okay, all these questions, is it assisted? Because the more requirements that it has, obviously it's going to take longer, right? So then I document all that, and it's kind of hard to explain. I'm a more visual person, but I'm more than willing to share what we've come up with. It takes us about 5 minutes to fill out, but we feel it works very well, because I don't know about you guys, but with our cores, there's a lot of back and forth, and sometimes stuff will either fall between the cracks, or people forget something, or they'll say, well, you didn't tell us that we had to go to the travel. You didn't tell us that we needed this or that. Mm-hmm. But if it's all documented on this timeline milestone chart, shows when we need to have it by, what it is that we need, they can't come back and say, well, you didn't tell us. Because it's there in writing, it's there in an email, it's in a timeline chart. And it just helps keep everyone accountable, keeps our cores accountable, their leadership, and also, me and my fellow colleague over here. So it just helps a lot. If you're interested in it, shoot me an email, or Lori. I'm going to put Lori in the spotlight. That's Lori. She's also an IA super user at CMMI. So Isaiah Lopez. So I think we might have shared it previously, but I don't recall. But
So
anyways.
we were going to do a training on it, but we didn't have much interest. But I think this is a great tool to use. Isaiah was willing before to network with other super users to share with them their method of tracking their IAs and the milestones. He's here to help. We encourage the super users to network. You all, this is why it's mandatory in-person training, because you all can get to see who other super users are. Some of you all work in the main building. You may see each other, where you can connect with one another to get suggestions or
benchmarking best practices.
Right.
A lot of people work on best practices like CCSQ, and you can kind of piggyback instead of trying to develop a brand new process yourself. There's already some that's already been put in place, and you can just use a best practice.
CCSQ also has a super user SOP. So they have their own internal SOP, which we previously encouraged all super users to develop your own SOP, because that's outside of OFM's SOP and OAGM's SOP. Your processes are prior to getting to us. So network. We're here to help you network as well. If it's something that you all want to put in place and we know another component that's doing it well and getting good results, we can connect you with those contacts so that we can all get this process together and better. Well, Isaiah had proposed sharing his timeline with the rest of the super users, and we mentioned that during one of our previous trainings, but we didn't get any feedback from anyone. But we thought it was a great timeline. So well, we don't know if everyone is interested, so if you could reach out to Kiana, and we can connect you all. We can set up a meeting with the two groups or anyone else who is interested, and maybe do like a WebEx, and he can go through what he has already developed. But we need to know who's interested, because everyone's, they have their own processes, and they may not, we don't want to force other processes on other people, on other components. But if you're interested in, learning something that can help you track things better, or can help have better processes improvements within your own component, we're a team here. We're all here to help. No one is left out. No one is left alone. So if there's anything we can do to connect the dots with the other components getting together, we're here to help with that as well. Okay? Okay, we have 15 minutes. We may not get through all the FAQs, but they're in the PowerPoint, which will be posted, and they're also in the packet. But we did want to go through some of them, but most importantly, we want to hear from you all and answer your questions. So if we don't get through all the FAQs, you do have that. But if you have questions now that you want to have addressed, we suggest you take the opportunity now while we can meet your need. And those on the call, on the phone, if you have any questions as well, we'll stop reading through the FAQs when we have someone to step up with a question. If we can get the PowerPoint to work again.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hey, Karen.
Any update on the servicing agency fee?
Okay, so this fiscal year, OAGM and OFM worked together, and it was proposed to start charging a fee. CMS was to start charging a fee when we're the servicing agency on IAAs. We received documentation that was supposed to start on effective February the 1st. Then we was told that was going to be put on hold and be in effect on April the 1st. It's on hold again. So as soon as we know, we will reach out to everyone to let them know. The last we know was that the fee was going to be 7% of whatever the direct cost is. But again, we don't know if that's going to change. We don't know when it's going to be effective. They may wait because since it hasn't been put in effect now, it may wait till FY18 to start. But right now, we're all on hold, so we don't know anything. But we thank you, Kara, for your patience with that, because it was kind of like back and forth with telling the federal partners, you know, we're going to charge a fee. Then we had to tell them, oh, no, it's on hold. So we thank you for your patience with that.
There's one more question.
Janny with the black book.
I was wondering, are there other agencies that charge a servicing fee? And if okay, there are. Because I was wondering if we start doing this, will we create other agencies therefore charging us when they're the servicing agency?
So we pay fees to pretty much every agency. We're pretty much one of the agencies that don't charge a fee. CDC's fees has been as high as 9% up to 14%. SSA started this year charging a fee. They charge a minimum of it's like $1,500 for every IAA, no matter what the dollar amount is. So if your IAA is $100, we're paying $1,500 in fees. If your IAA is $2 million, we're paying $1,500 in fees. AHRQ, ARC, they charge 5%. ONC, they charge 7% when they're doing the IAA and when they're doing FTE support. Sometimes when their IAAs are, when they're just doing a contract mod and PSC is doing the contract mod, they may charge like 3.25%. So it's a range, and there's really no specific guidance on what the fee should be. It just says it has to be reasonable. So we as an agency, we just have to make sure that we're asking the correct questions as to making sure that we're addressing reasonableness. We shouldn't just be saying, okay, we're just going to pay this $100,000 fee. You know, what's involved in the fee? You know, and one thing that we realize that when we do ask the questions, sometimes the fee is reduced. Sometimes there is no fee. So it's good to ask the questions, even though we know what their roundabout point range of what the fee is going to be. Well, what is the consistency of what their fee has been? But it's always good to ask the questions because we want to make sure that we are being reasonable in us obligating these funds. Okay.
The next question: why are the IA documents updated so frequently?
We hear this often.
The reason why is because we always try to stay current. We try to stay in real time all the time. So the IA documents are updated based on feedback, based on changes that we receive, and anything in the department, policies, procedures, the Lean Initiative. We always try to make sure that they're current so that you are always having the most up-to-date information at all times. So yes, it does change frequently because that's pretty much life in healthcare. Healthcare changes like the weather. So you know, we try not to, but I think it's best to always stay current and give you the most up-to-date information, especially when you're dealing with large volumes of money. And you know, you just want these contracts and IAs to be correct. So that's why if there's a change, we always try to reach out and let you know what has changed and when it has changed and why. So we try to at least communicate that information.
So the Department of Treasury recently changed their forms. They hadn't changed their forms since 2012. They provided new forms in November of 2016, this is 2017. So 2016, they provided new forms. We made the forms effective December of 2016, just so that we can make everyone acclimated to there being new forms. The purpose of the new forms was to make them 508 compliant. So we were having issues with posting the forms on our AGX because they weren't 508 compliant. So we had to go back to the Treasury constantly to try to get them to make changes to the forms, and they did. They made the changes. We're glad about that. But we know that some people were already working on the older forms, so we try to put a little leeway in between the time of us making the form effective, and we did work with other components that were past our effective date, that we would accept the forms. Also, one of the changes that we made to the forms was once the Treasury Department provided the new forms, under the servicing agency side, it was all grayed out. So once the form got scanned back and forth several times with signatures, by the time it came back fully executed, you couldn't see any of the signatures. So Renita and I went through, I don't think she's here, but another component reached out to us to show us how to get the grayed out removed. So we went through and removed the grayed out sections so that we won't have to keep sending this back again, or this has to be re-signed because we won't see it and OFM is going to reject it. So all the changes that we make are good changes. It's to help us better in our process, help us better as an agency to have good documents in the end. We do take your feedback. Cheryl has come to us with some good feedback. We've initiated what she requested. So if you all see things that can help us to become better, and we see that it's going to work for everyone, we do accept and we will try to make those changes and put it in effect. So we thank you, Cheryl, as well.
Did you have a question? Oh, okay.
So the new forms that are on SharePoint for you all to use no longer have the grayed out area.
Now this is a question that's come up too. What's the difference between a multi-year and a multiple order agreement? And are there specific instructions for each? And you will have this documented in your FAQs, but a multi-year just means that you have set up the IA to span across maybe multiple years, whether it be 1, 2, or 4 to 5 years. Usually they're set up for a 5-year IA. The multi-year will have multiple order forms, so you'll have a new B form each year when you modify the agreement. And the multiple order I means that you will have multiple 7600B forms as a result of either a multi-year IA, or if you're modifying the year, modifying the IA within the fiscal year. So if you're adding money to a current IA in FY17, that would be a multi-order IA.
Or for some of our IAs, we may fund 2 separate tasks in the same fiscal year. So for an assisted acquisition, we may have a contract where we're adding money to the base year that have already started, but the start date will be upon final signatures to the end of the contract period of performance. But we also have an option year that we want to continue services in that's going to actually be exercised in that same fiscal year. So those are 2 separate orders. So they will require 2 separate 7600B forms. They have 2 separate period of performances. So that's a multi-order. But there are some instances where we have multiple 7600B forms, and that's because we're using multiple funding sources. That's not a multiple order. The funding is all for the same order. It's just different funding sources from CMS. So that wouldn't be considered a multiple order. Okay.
Got it.
Any questions on that?
I see deers in the headlights.
Lasagna, you have a question? So multiple order is you have more than one order that's being funded in the same fiscal year. It has different period of performances. It could be the same funding source, but it's for 2 separate orders with different period of performances in the same fiscal year. Right, because you can have a base year and option year 1. You can have option year 1 and option year 2 that we're funding. The funding has to be FY17 funding, but it's for 2 separate orders. Or we can have, we have an IAA where we have 15 different funding sources. So we have 15 7600B forms. That's because OFM is getting money from different sources with different program authorities. But it's the same period of performance, the same order. We're just paying for it out of different pots of money.
Yes.
So that's not a multiple order. It's a single order. We're just using different funding to pay for it. Okay? Any questions on the phone? Okay, so we're going to start wrapping up. We got to question 11. The FAQs go through is 28 questions. If you all want to take the time to read through them on your own, if you have questions after reading through them, you can, of course, reach out to us. Is there any final questions? Anyone on the phone? Anyone in the audience that have any final questions? Anything that we talked about that you want further clarity on? No? We thank our CSIO crew for coming from Bethesda to visit with us.
Yes,
we thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate you all participating and wanting to learn more and more about IAAs. The more we learn, the more we share with you all. We're always learning. I always tell Renita, I tell everyone, this is a constant learning position.
I'm still learning.
Yes, we learn every day. So, Kiana, when you say how do you train on the scope of work, we learn every day. Do not feel that if you're not catching something, that it's a ding on you. It's not. It's a learning process. It's a learning process, and we can work through whatever it is that you may feel like you need more help with. We'll help you with that.
Yes.
But don't feel like, I keep getting this same rejection. I'm not getting it.
Yep.
Let's talk about it. Because, again, we're learning just like you all are. We might get something across our desk, and we ain't never seen this before.
Yeah. It changes. It
changes
really does.
Constantly, learning something new, something we've never seen before. We deal with it all the time. Don't feel like you all are out there alone. We're here to help. I can't stress it enough. We are a team. There's no I's and we's. It's a team.
Here's your
So
daily dose.
We thank you all so much. And for those who didn't want to come up to the mic, if you have questions or concerns, send us an email, and we'll gladly respond to your email and inform the IAA community of your concerns as well. Thank you for those who are on the phone. We ask that you send us an email so that we can keep track of those who attended this training.
Yep.
Thank you all. And
Thank
Renita
you.
said we have Snickers. Thank you. Hi, Steve Chu. Steve Chu have snacks. Thank you. He was trying to say hello to us. I'm good. How are you?